Good day, everyone. My name is Richie Skelechi, a full stack engineer at Rescue Americans. So today I will be walking you through on how to actually create your project from start to finish. So in the course of this video, we'll be looking at how to actually implement the Figma design that our designers have given to us. So that's basically the design that we'll be working on for today. So once we go to this particular URL, we have a design that we want to work on, a crazy town car wash. So this is a pretty simple design. So here we have the landing page, we have the about page, we have the services page, we have the checkout page, we have the contact page. I think that's basic pages that we have. And for this project, I'm not sure I will cover all these designs, but basically I'll cover everything in the landing page, because if we can finish the landing page, I guess everybody can actually work on the other one, because this one is quite simple, straightforward. It's just an image, straightforward. It's something with this. So I think the landing page is the most important aspect of this particular website. So basically, this is a Figma design that our UI UX designers have come up with. So as a front-end engineer, your work is to actually translate this design you have here into code, into a website, something like that. So that's what we'll be looking at today. So we have some tools that we'll be using to work today. One of them is Git. So basically, everybody should have Git installed on their system. So for you to check if you have Git installed on your system, you can just go to your terminal and type in git-v. So once you do this and a response like this is returned back to you, that simply means you have Git installed on your system. But if you have any error message, like command not found or something like that, that means you don't have Git installed. So you have to go ahead and install Git following the documentation. So you can download for Mac if you are using Mac. If you are using system, of course, this should change to download for Windows rather. So you can download for Windows, the same thing for Ubuntu and any operating system that you are using. The next thing that we'll look at is VS Code. So VS Code is the development environment we use for this project. You can basically use any text editor that you want. We have the Sublime text, we have the Atom, we have the Notepad++, and the rest of them. But I'll recommend that you use VS Code because of the beautiful extensions and features that we have in VS Code. Then the next thing we want to look at is GitHub. So you should have a GitHub account. So this is like a hub where our code is being hosted or stored. So once we are done with our development environment, once we have written the code in our local machine, we can now push it up to GitHub. It's being stored for life, it's being secured. Even if your system crashes, you are sure that you have a backup of your code in the cloud. So GitHub allows us also for collaboration. Let's say you are working with a team, you can also use GitHub to actually do that. So basically, these are the tools that we will use for this. So before we start, I would like to create my project in GitHub. So there are two ways by which you can actually create your project. You can actually start the project on your local machine. Once you have started it, you can now move it up to your repository, or you can start it directly from your GitHub. Once you are done, you can move it to your local machine. So I prefer the latter, which is creating it on GitHub. Then from GitHub, I can now move it to my local machine. So here I'm going to create a new repository. So I can call this car wash website, something like that. Any name you feel like calling it is okay. So it's going to be a public repository. So I want to add a README file. I want to also add a git ignore file. So I want to use git ignore file for Node.js. Then my main branch. Then I will just, if I need a license, you can select anyone. But at this point in time, I will leave it as none. Then I'm going to create the repository. So the repository should be created for us, so we can see it. At this point, we just have only one particular branch. We can see the git ignore file and we can see the README file. So now that we have created the repository. The next thing to do is to move this repository to our local machine. And to do that, I will go to this green button here that is written code, click on the drop down. Then there are three ways you can actually clone this. You can clone it using HCPS or SSH or GitHub CLI. So myself, I prefer the first one, which is HCPS. So I will just copy this. Then I will now go to my local machine. Now you have to actually move to that particular folder where you want to clone this repository. So I am on Mac. If I do ls, I will see the particular directory where I am in. So I want to move into desktop. So I will do cd desktop. I am now in my desktop. So if I do ls again, you can see I have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have these 5 folders here. That's the same thing you are seeing here: GIGL, lesson, office hour, practice folders, and Zurich. So these are the 5 folders that we have here. So I want to make a folder for this, or let's just clone it directly on our desktop. So I will just do git clone. Then I will paste that link which I have copied from my GitHub. Git clone, then you paste the link which you have copied from your GitHub. You hit your enter key, so it will try to clone it for you. And once it's done, you can see the folder out here for yourself. So you can see the folder is here for me. So that folder has been cloned. So what I will do now is to actually open this folder up in my VS Code. So once I move to my VS Code, this is my VS Code, an empty window. So I'll just go to File, go to Open Folder. The folder should be on my desktop. I'll go to Desktop. You can see it here, Car Wash website. Click on it and click on Open. Now I have set up my project from GitHub and I have cloned it down to my local environment. Then the next thing to do now is to set up the project, whereby creating the folders that we need, creating the basic files that we need, the folder structures and everything. So let's go back to what we want to do. So basically, this is a project we want to work on. This particular project we want to work on. So this project has some images. Of course, there are CSS in this. I don't know if we'll add some validations to this. I'm not sure of that. But we can see a contact form here that we can decide to validate if you want. So basically, we will have a CSS folder, we'll have a JS folder, we'll have an image folder. And I think there are some icons here also. So we can also have an icon folder. These are icons, they are image icons. So we can have an icon folder, which is directly inside our image folder. So you can use images for this. You can also use your normal font awesome icons or material icons or even bootstrap icons. So there are several icons you can use for this, but I think this is an image. If we click on these and go to export, you can see it's an image. If I click on this plus sign and click on preview, so this is an image. So I don't need to use any icon. I will just use this image directly. So now let's set up our folder structure. So now here I have this. So I'll click on this, which is to create a folder. I'll create my CSS folder. That's the first folder I am creating for this. So I'll click on it again. I'll create my JS folder for JavaScript. So the next folder I want to create is my images folder. Images folder. Then inside this images folder, I want to create another folder for icons, something like this. So I think this should be all for me. I have my CSS folder, I have my images folder, I have my JS folder. Then I want to create the entry point of my application, which I will call the index.html, which is basically our landing page. So that means this is the first page that will be rendered when someone visits our website. So we normally call it index, depending on the language you are using. If you are using PHP, to be index.php. So index is like the first page that will be rendered when someone visits your website. So you have to call it index. So now we have created a basic folder structure of our work. So now let's create our HTML boilerplate. So now I have my HTML boilerplate. I want to call this my homepage, something like that. So now The next thing to do is to try to link my CSS. Because I have a CSS folder here, this is where all my CSS files will go into. So I can right click here, click on new file. I want to call this main.css. So this is where I'm going to be doing all my styling. So let me duplicate this. So I have my HTML here and I have my CSS somewhere here. So anything styling goes inside here. HTML goes inside here. So to prove that this is working, let's try to write just a little CSS using the universal selector. You can say padding 0, margin 0, margin 0, and let's give this a background color of #FF1234. This should be a red color. So I have to link this CSS, which I haven't done. So we use our link tag to link this. In the href, you now specify the path of your file. So we do this. We are going to CSS, then we are going to main.css. So once I save this and right click on here and click on open on live server. So let's see what we have. So we have that red environment showing up here for us. So that means our CSS have been linked successfully. So now we don't need this red color. We are just using it to check. So before we continue, I want to discuss what we call branching in Git. What we call Git branching. It's very paramount that you understand what branching is all about, because as an engineer, as a front-end engineer, you can be working in a team whereby everybody is working on their local branch. So if you don't know how to commit to your branch, create a pull request, and the pull request will be merged. It's going to be a big problem when you are working in a team. So what is a branch? A branch is like having your own workspace. Let's take a tree, for example. A tree has several branches. All those branches are connected to that particular tree. That's what a Git branch is all about. The project is like the tree, just like I created the car wash website. That is the project. That is the tree. Then everybody working on that project should have their own branch. So I am working on that project. I should have my own branch. Mr. A is working on the same project. Mr. A should have his own branch. Everybody should have their own branch. You work on your branch. Once you are done working on your branch, you push to your branch, then create a pull request. So the pull request is like telling the team that, oh, I am done working on my branch. Can I now merge this thing to the main branch? So by merging, that means you want everybody to have access to what you have actually worked on. So that's how people work in a team, because you work individually. Once you are done, everything will be collected together into one single project. So that's an overview of what branching is all about. So if I go back to my terminal and do git branch, you can see, oh, sorry, I am in my desktop. So I have to do cd car wash. I am now in the car wash project. Let me clear the terminal. Let me see if I can increase the size of this. Okay, that's better. Let me increase it more. So I think it is much better. So I am directly inside the car wash website. So if I do git branch now, you can see it's showing me that I have only one branch here, which is the main branch. And if you go to your GitHub, you can see that you have only one branch, which is actually the main branch. That is what you are seeing here. So that is exactly what we have here, one branch. So I want to create a local branch for myself, the branch I'll be working on. So to do that, we use git branch, and I want to call this branch riches. So once I've done this, I have created a branch for myself called riches. If I run the git branch code again, you can see I have two branches now, the main branch and the riches branch. And I want to work in the riches branch, not in the main branch. Because if you're working in a team, the main branch will be restricted. That means you cannot even work on the main branch. You should have your own branch where you work on. So to do that, I will do git checkout riches. So once I've done it, you can see it's telling me I have switched to branch riches. If I run the Git branch again, you can see that it is pointing to riches instead of the main that was pointed to before. So it is now pointing to riches. So anything I do, add commit, will be going to the riches branch instead of the main branch. Now, since we have seen this, let's just try to do a little, see hello world on the screen. Before we continue, we can do hello world, something like this. So now we have done this. Let's try to commit. Let's try to add commit to our GitHub and see what we have in the GitHub. So now we do git add, or that means you have committed it to staging, git commit. I can say created the basic website template. Let me increase this a little. So you can see 3 files change, CSS main.css index.html, then the VS Code settings.json. So now I will not do git push origin riches. I'm no longer pushing to main. I'm now pushing to my own branch, git push origin riches. So once I do this, it will try to push to my branch. So once I go to my GitHub, you can see GitHub has notified me that I have made a push less than a minute ago. So I have to compare and create a pull request. So this simply means I want to notify the team that, oh, I have made a change and I want to create a pull request. Normally call it PR, create a PR. So once I compare and create a pull request, before it can create a pull request, it will check whether this request can be merged. So there are some situations where people can have merge conflicts. So in this situation, it means more than one person is working on a particular file. So Git is not able to know the file to choose and the file not to choose, something like that. So in that kind of scenario, there might be conflicts. So Git will not allow you to create that pull request. But at this point in time, because this is just a basic site that we are building, there is no conflict. So it's telling me that I am able to merge. So I can just go ahead and create the pull request. So once I have created the pull request, the team lead or the CTO or whoever that is in charge will be notified that Riches have created a pull request. And this button to merge will be disabled because I am not expected to merge the request myself. But because this is a basic work and the rule has not been added, I can go ahead and merge this. So merging this means I want those code in the Riches branch to be available in the main branch. So I'll just go ahead and click on merge and confirm merge. So once I do this, everything I have done, you can see pull request successfully merged and closed. So once I go back to this particular page and my main branch, I have access to everything that was created in the Riches branch. So basically, this is all for this particular series. In the next video, we'll go ahead and start working on our project.